don't let people squash your voice, because it's a lot of the times there are people, especially like in the trad publishing world, who have, a very set way of how a story should be told. But lit RPG is a genre where indie authors flourish. And so the readers are almost expecting more of a unique voice to it, which you won't get if you're trying to make yourself conform to the proper English standards of, trad publishing rules. Like, one of the biggest trad publishing rules is the whole, like, oh, you can't start a story from a dream sequence. Agents won't pick it up if you have the character waking from a dream, or like, oh, the character can't look at themselves in a reflection and like note their features. Do it in a fun way. Like, embrace it. Like, these are things that actually happen. Like, how do people see what they look like? They look at themselves in a freaking mirror.
This is the CritRPG Podcast, your one-stop shop for everything lit RPG, progression fantasy, and Royal Road. Hi everyone, and welcome to the CritRPG Podcast, the only podcast that invites people who are brave enough to write a lit RPG about tennis. And also Dungeon Course, don't worry about it, it's going to be great. With me today is Rin, who writes as Jonathan Smidt. This is a very hard name for me to say for some reason. And you might know their work as from Elemental Dungeons.
Elemental Dungeon series, Dungeon Core Online,
Exactly.
Aced, Resonance, Flamespitter.
So prolific. Indeed.
Just a few books.
How are you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
I can't complain. It's already getting dark over here in Deutschland. So it means the sun is going to be rising for you soon. That's going to be nice.
The sun is up. It's not warm yet, though. It's still very cold.
That's what January does to you, unless you're in Australia. Isn't the world weird?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, South America's warm right now.
Very true. South Africa, too. So how about this? We've already talked about your books a little bit. We had your top 5-6 things to keep in mind when writing Dungeon Core, also known as Don't Do It, Max. Don't overcomplicate it.
I didn't say that. I just said don't overcomplicate it. I didn't say never. I never said don't do it.
Which to me means don't do it. But it's putting butter to the fish, as we say in German. And let's talk about which of your next books do you want to talk about first?
Oh, geez. I mean, there's a lot of them. I think I've got 12 out now.
Flamespitter?
But
upcoming book?
Okay, yeah, we can talk about upcoming. Okay. So go into like Flamespitter, I guess.
Yeah.
Briefly, because that's the project I'm working on next anyways.
Yeah. So sell me on that book.
Okay, so Flamespitter, the running pitch for it is essentially Red Dead Redemption meets Cultivation. So it is based in the 1880s in America. It is I try to keep historical accuracy as best as I can. So this is post-Civil War. This is right around the time that like gold's being discovered in the Black Hills, getting ready to kick off the like the war against the indigenous people and all of that. So it's very much so the time when the West is still wild, and you've got the advent of trains being created and introducing new travel across the country and everything. And so you've got a character who is, if not for bad luck, he wouldn't have any luck at all. Is his viewpoint on things. The everybody in the world, the cultivation aspect of it, everybody in the world can use a single type of mana generally. So you've got the typical fire, wind, water, earth affinities for mana, and everybody has an affinity for it, but varying degrees of it. And for the world that the main character, who goes by Mr. Jones in book 1, is the way it's working is everybody uses that mana to essentially craft bullets for their guns. So depending on the type of mana you've got, you can craft different types of bullets. Fire bullets are hot and melt things. Wind bullets are fast and can pierce through things. Pretty simple type of situation.
Nice. Yeah. What do water bullets do?
Water bullets can freeze things.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see.
But also depending on how they shape them and how they use the mana, they can actually twist and adjust it. So Mr. Jones learns a lot about that through the book as he goes. But then moving into the second book, they actually start to learn different cultures use mana in different ways. And so he actually gets to learn like different cultivation styles as he interacts with different cultures, which is a lot of fun. But
so it's a little bit like Red Dead Redemption meets Avatar.
Yes, that's another way people have
Cool.
explained it, is Red Dead Redemption meets Avatar. And so, funnily enough, the main character, with his curse luck, he can use all 4 types of mana. But he views it as a curse because when it gets discovered when he's a kid, because he around the age of 8 is when their mana starts to manifest. His parents get killed because the government was trying to capture him to turn into a weapon, because it's unheard of that somebody can use 4 types of mana, like maybe 2 types, like a 1 in a million type opportunity, but all 4, completely unheard of. So his parents get murdered and he gets saved by his butler, who is actually secretly a retired U.S. Marshal, who starts to train him and teach him the ways of becoming a gunslinger. But shortly after that, just a few years later, his mentor gets murdered by a group of bandits, and he is forced to flee. And so he holds that grudge. And so the book 1 starts with him finally getting a lead on the gang that killed his mentor. And so he is on his way heading out west to start his path of revenge. And so the whole series is actually kind of a monster of the week type situation, but it's an outlaw of the week. So each book is him tracking down a different outlaw from the gang that wronged him. And so
yeah. Okay, I'm going to categorize this in my head. So we have Red Dead Redemption meets Avatar meets The Blacklist.
Yeah.
Nice.
That works too. And so, yeah, so the first book, Flamespitter, he's chasing down a guy named Blackjack Pickham, who is a fire mana user, kind of your typical crazed, aggressive, just violent sort.
Blackjack Pickham as opposed to Texas Hold'em?
Okay, it's a very common Western thing to, like card-based type names here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so through the whole story, he ends up pairing up with an old Civil War vet who's known as essentially the Reaper, because he was he's a wind mana user, sniper, who teaches Mr. Jones some tricks. He winds up working with a lady by the name of Miss Emma Watts, who is narrated by Andrea Parsnew in the audiobook. Yeah. Sound Booth Theater does the audiobook, but Andrea comes in for the female cast. It's great. And she's a water user who's actually the niece of a rail baron who's known as Bloody Bill. And so there's some potential fallout there. He gets mixed up with the U.S. Marshals. Some things get unraveled where it starts to show there's actually some like secret plotting going on behind the scenes to overthrow the new U.S. government, because the South, the side that lost, obviously didn't take too kindly to losing. So there's some shadow organizations, and all this is actually based in historical fact. Like after the Civil War, there was actually secret groups that tried to overthrow the government. I mean, that's where you had the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. That was, somebody, a supporter of one of those shadow groups. So it's been really fun trying to tie like the history into it while keeping just the Western vibe of like old school Western movies and, nitty gritty, like Clint Eastwood type goodness there.
John Wayne.
Yeah. And so it's been a lot of fun, and it's very fast paced. It's dark and gritty. And so I'm actually working on the second book now, which moves us from a small podunk town in Kansas to them heading north to the Black Hills, because that's where he got his next lead from. And so he's chasing down a man who's simply known as the Mountain Man by an alias. But it's exciting because book 2 really shows, it leans into a lot more of the cultivation. So he gets to learn a lot more about actually taking his core to the next level and developing it, because like I said, his mentor got killed early on. And so he didn't get to complete really any of the training that he needed to. And so now he's got an obnoxious amount of mana. So he's always been like really strong in his viewpoint, but as he's exploring the world, he's getting a lot of eye openings in that he's really not all that. Like,
Okay.
yeah, he's blessed. Like, he has a lot of mana, so he's like, I've always been stronger and able to do this, and he could see other people's mana, so he could like rock paper scissors, that type of matchup. But now he's learning about like people having advanced cores that they've cultivated to the next level, and like when he met the marshal in the first book, he really like saw the distinction and the sheer difference of their like ability and power, and it was like kind of that come to Jesus moment where he's like, oh, I am not as badass as I thought I was.
Cool.
So it kind of humbles him. So he, like, it's working on getting rid of that arrogance of like misplaced youth and pride in his own power as he's like coming to terms with everything. So book 2, yeah, he gets to like learn about how to cultivate his core to higher tiers and levels, which will unlock additional skills to manifest for him. He is also going to interact with the indigenous people as he's heading up to the Black Hills, like the Sioux in the Dakotas areas and everything, and actually will learn the way that the indigenous tribes cultivate, which is in a very different manner than the way that the Americans were cultivating. So instead of just like summoning the bullets, like creating bullets for guns and pure warfare type thing, like the indigenous tribes use mana in ways to like heal. They use mana in ways to like actually like enforce their body, like create like stone armor if they need to.
What have people done before guns were invented?
So it depends again on the culture. But essentially the European cultures with the colonizing and the like the more war focused leaned a lot of their cultivation teaching into combat, war, violence. And so before guns were invented, they were cultivating their mana through weapons. And they use a metal called soul silver in it that lets them cultivate mana more freely because it's like conducive to mana, so it actually can amplify and create the effects. And so like before then, when you have like crusaders or Spanish Inquisition, conquistadors, all of that, when they were using like their swords and their armor and everything, they'd have it laced with soul silver to actually amplify it. So if there was like a fire user, he could like make his sword catch fire or heat the sword up so that it could easily slice through metal. Earth users could harden their armor or, you know, make their blade sturdier or heavier for, you know, stronger blows type of things. And so and that's actually an aspect that starts to get shown a little more in book 2, because there are some people who still know some of those old techniques. It got hinted at in book 1 because the U.S. Marshal does a really cool trick. He has a cane, like a walking staff that he carries around, and like all the marshals carry them because it denotes their ranking of like their core. But they're all actually lined with soul silver all the way through. So like Mr. Jones in book 1 actually watches the marshal like swing his staff at somebody and then have an ice spike extend from the bottom of it to like completely pierce through somebody. So he's starting to see that. But essentially it's one of those situations where there is a control on knowledge. And so a lot of these old techniques, a lot of these cultivation methods aren't taught. So it's like the masses only get kind of the bare minimum of, hey, look, you can make bullets because you need to be able to hunt animals and protect yourselves. And that's how you use this mana that everybody has. But like, it's a really controlled flow on what ideas they're trying to let spread with regards to mana, because there's people in power that obviously don't want things uprising. And so that's the other thing is like the indigenous people with their cultivation, they don't use soul silver. Like they're a lot more in tune with the natural affinity of the mana around them. And so they don't need that crutch for it. So that makes them less reliant on, you know, resources.
Makes complete sense.
And then like later on too, he'll get to like meet cultivators from China, because by the time as he's essentially making his way west.
You're spoiling the entire series, aren't you?
No, I've done worse. I spoiled a lot of stuff on the debut stream for it because I got super wasted. And it was like this 3-hour stream. Oh my God. It was, but yeah, no, this is just roadmaps of like, I've already said he's going to like, it's Outlaw of the Week and he's heading west. So he's interacting with different cultures every time. And so that's
like, it's just like, for everyone who doesn't know, like Rin also like explained that they wrote this entire thing. Well, not wrote it, but like the idea of it came out of like, what was it? Books and Bourbon?
Books and bourbon, yeah.
Yeah, so like a drinking stream. Okay, well, enjoy. I don't know, that's fine. With a look at the time, though, do you also want to quickly talk Semi on Resonance?
Yeah, sure. So Resonance is my monster taming lit RPG. It's an urban fantasy based, so it actually takes place in Colorado Springs for book one.
Because you don't want money.
Pretty much. Well, I lived there for like 15 years or something, so I know the location really well. So it was really easy to like bring realism to the scenes because it's environment I lived. So all the places, all the locations are places I've actually been and seen. So it's easier to pull from the memory to get the smells, the feels, all that goodness. But essentially, the premise behind Resonance is that we are not alone. There's another dimension that's kind of latched onto ours, and it's got these monsters and creatures in it that have come over into our world for like time immemorial. So it actually harkens back to calling out that like creatures from mythology are actually real things that humans interacted with, but they came from this other dimension. And it gets shown that the government and powers that be have actually got shadow agents that are bonding with these demons from the other dimension in order to defend our world from invading monsters. Because there's like they're called the Old Ones, for people with Cthulhu know-how. But the Old Ones are waking in the other dimension, and they're essentially working to break open rifts into our world so that they can essentially come over and
have
consume breakfast. Pretty much, because it goes with that whole like matter can never be created nor destroyed type of thing. So it's essentially they're ripping into our dimension so they can consume our world's everything, because they've already consumed everything.
Yeah,
because they've already consumed like all of their worlds, everything. So it's they just keep eating other universes and other dimensions.
It's a problem, man.
I know, it's just the gluttony.
Absolutely. But okay, so where's the MC come in?
So the main character, he comes in because everybody's talking about this phone game that they're playing. It's like based off of like Pokemon Go type of thing. So everybody's like, oh, there's this cool game. It's called Dead Exorcist. You get to capture demons and run around and fight them and trade them with people. And so he gets conned into downloading it. And when he downloads it and activates it, it awakens. It essentially links up his innate ability to resonate with the other dimension. And so triggers him being found by the shadow government and essentially forced into working for them because he's got a S tier potential resonation. So they're just like,
I hate it when it happens, yeah.
Right? And so it finds out that the phone game is a giant cover for them to find new operatives while also masking their activities, because the rifts have started to get more frequent. But it would be suspicious if you just had like people milling about one area where this rift was while they're trying to deal with things, because normal people can't see the demons. So they made this phone app so everybody can go there and just be milling about, and they can have their operatives like in there fighting this war around them without anybody actually realizing what's going on. Because then like part of it is they're fighting them as they're breaking through the rifts into our world, but then some groups actually get sent into this like dimension between the two to fight the creatures as they're trying to manifest.
Makes sense.
And so
he gets like pulled in, and obviously
he gets press ganged in, gets snagged like in the middle of an operation. So this person named Loki actually shows up, takes him away, pulls him into the middle of a dimension to watch this like massive battle happen, and it's just like, you're one of us now.
Nice.
And so
enjoy.
Yeah, and so that's it. Kicks off his whole adventure of him meeting other exorcists and finding out like there are other things called like demon hunters around and other organizations. And then he gets to capture and make bonds with different, they're called D.E.D, digitally energized demons. So he gets to make bonds with other D.E.Ds, and they all have like their own unique personalities. And so he's training them and leveling them up because they can actually evolve and unlock new powers as they get stronger.
And knowing you, obviously, there's going to be a lot of dead jokes.
Yeah, well, it's D.E.D, D-E-D.
I know. Like Germans can't pronounce the difference between like math and meth, so it's always fun. But yeah, you're saying?
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, it's totally full of jokes and shenanigans. He has his first dead that he gets is an evil eye, so a giant floating eyeball with wings, and he names him Wink.
Nice. Yeah, obviously that's what you would name him, right?
Obviously, what's your giant floating eyeball?
Anyway, seeing as we're already like 20 minutes in, we only have like an hour. This is the most inelegant switch I could have ever done. But if you want to read more about it, you should buy the book. It's really good. So, what is the best advice you ever gotten as a writer?
Other than the cliche, just keep writing.
Yes, please do not give me that, because everyone gives me that.
As I say, I feel like everybody just opens up. Well, you can't edit a blank page. I've heard that so many times.
I'm sorry, like we write Lit RPG here. What's editing?
It's the worst part of writing.
I don't think so. I actually love editing, but that's a different topic.
It's where I stare at it and the imposter syndrome kicks in and I say, I hate this. What was I thinking? Nobody's ever going to touch this.
Yeah, no, that happens when after I hit like not that many followers on Royal Road. That's when it kicks in. But yeah, you go ahead. What's the best advice?
I think the best advice for writing was just kind of like to read more.
That's
and not like reading. Sorry.
That's fine.
I mean, if it works, it works. But it's true though. Like, you can't write if you don't read. Like, how do you not like?
I have one client who doesn't read and who writes really, really well.
They've never read anything.
They've read something for school, obviously,
but like they just, or do they consume through like audiobooks or anything like that?
Anime.
I mean, anime is very, and I guess that works for our genre, especially. That works because a lot of the lit RPG readers are anime lovers as well, and anime is a very expressive type of storytelling. And that's, I was going to get to that past the cliche read, was just like at the same time you need to just consume storytelling because it's an art, and so anytime, like, you know, great artists, they didn't just wake up and make art. They looked at other art, they admired other art, they looked at things, and it was like, I like this or I don't like that. You try to understand what aspects of whatever art it is you're doing you like and don't like, because that's how you start to create your own kind of brand for it. And so like when you're reading novels, like if you're like, oh, I really enjoy these stories, but here's this one part that annoyed me, you like mentally put that away and try to like avoid doing that when you're writing your own stories.
Yeah.
But then also, especially for lit RPG and game lit, as a genre as a whole, I would say don't let people squash your voice. Because it's a lot of the times there are people, especially like in the trad publishing world, who have, you know, a very set way of how a story should be told, a very set way of, you know, sentence structure, mannerisms, techniques, and all of that. But lit RPG is a genre where indie authors flourish, and so the readers are almost expecting more of a unique voice to it, which you won't get if you're trying to make yourself conform to the proper English standards of, you know, trad publishing rules. Like one of the biggest, well, okay, you still need some good grammar, but like one of the biggest trad publishing rules is the whole like, oh, you can't start a story from a dream sequence, or it's like one of the 5 rules is don't start a story from a dream sequence. Like agents won't pick it up if you have the character waking from a dream, or like, oh, the character can't look at themselves in a reflection and like note their features. And because like, part of it is like there's our amateurish tricks to try to be like, oh, well, this is how I'm going to explain how my character looks. I'll have them look in the mirror. Kind of amateurish, but do it in a fun way. Like do it, embrace it. Like these are things that actually happen. Like, how do people see what they look like? They look at themselves in a freaking mirror.
But
they're not like,
but like most people don't wake up every morning and go like, this is what I look like. Like, right. So like there has to be a reason why.
And so that's, you've got to like make it your own, but it's like, it's not just they aren't just cardinal sins of, oh, these are the rules that you can't do if you want to get published. No, this is lit RPG. Like, it's indie. Do what you want, write it, as long as it's fun, as long as you have fun with it, as long as you're passionate about what you're writing. Like, people see that. And then from there, things can get polished, things can get edited, things can get cleaned up and prepared, but don't let anyone squash your voice and your unique take on storytelling, because that's inherently, storytelling is like one of the most human things we can do. Like, every culture expands and grows because of storytelling. Like, even before written word, it was, vocal storytelling or raiding around campfires, telling your tales as you traveled. Like, there wasn't this set structure to it. And so as long as you're telling the story in a way that's passionate and that you're getting your idea through and everything, like, people will consume it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Well, with that being said, what's one thing that you... I mean, I would love to talk about this more. We can do that in a minute, but I need to kind of like make sure we actually get through all the questions.
Can a team of has-been teen idols save the world? Find out in the new series Boy Bands and Dragons. When Neverboyland is sucked into a magical world, their reunion takes a back seat to staying alive. But if they can get over the past drama that drove them apart, they may find that even pop stars can be heroes. Come and discover your new favorite read. Our comeback tour is Slaying Monsters, the first in the Boy Bands and Dragons series by Kim Smuga Otto, dropping on Kindle Unlimited, October 25th.
So what's one thing that you learned while writing that you would love to go back to and change, or would now do differently, that sort of stuff?
I think, my writing style has changed and improved a lot. Just like Flamespitter, like I mentioned earlier to you, like, Flamespitter felt like the peak of my writing for the moment. And so I actually went back and completely rewrote D.E.D before it published to incorporate my new writing style from Flamespitter into it. And all that really was I found that a lot of my earlier writings, I didn't really focus on all of the senses. So I couldn't like really build a scene properly. Whereas with Flamespitter and everything that I was writing in it, I found I started to really draw more in on like including in sounds and smells and tastes and feelings and like just giving a little more life to everything. And so I felt like that took the writing to the next like up notch. So instead of just being like, oh, they're in this cave, like adding in a lot more descriptors to it. But that was part of the thing, was I write fast. And so early on when I was writing everything, it was just really fast, quick writing here and just like trying to keep up with my mind as it's painting a scene. And so a lot of those things got glossed over. And so I've learned now to like slow down and try to like incorporate more of those senses into a scene to make it feel more real for the reader and to try to draw them in more.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's probably like also like some sort of rule for this, or like some sort of mnemonic, but like there's a I don't know if it's Japanese or Chinese. It's from one of those like martial arts. The idea of like the shuhari. So you have the shu, which is the beginner stage, the ha is the middle stage, the ri is the master stage. And whenever you learn a new skill, sometimes it is literally just the best idea to just imitate. So that's the shu phase. You learn the rule. And then at the ha phase, you learn to understand the rule. So, like, if you ever watch Karate Kid, that's the moment where,
Wax on, wax off.
Exactly. Where he, like, explains why he does all these motions. Like, oh, I understand the rule. Like, that's starting the ha phase. And then re phase is where you are the rule. So where you incorporate the rule so much that you know when you can break it, because you understood why the rule is there in the first place.
Right.
And yeah, for senses, like, I have no good, like, mnemonic to it. The only thing that I would really say is just read your stuff, and after it's done, after you've done the entire book, you have to go through again and kind of shore up your weaknesses. That's how that works. You can be the best plotter in the world and not have to edit. That's good. But I think, especially with RPG becoming more and more crowded these days, which I think is a good thing. It's nice. In order to really stand out, you have to have a well-edited book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's definitely like the early years of lit RPG. Like, you could get away with having a lot of grammatical errors or like less polished mistakes. Novels because everybody was just snagging everything that was there. But now, especially, you've got Portal, Mountaindale, Shadow Alley, Legion,
Aethon,
Royal Guard, Aethon, like so many genre-specific publishers now that are really picking things up and taking, you know, these monster series too from like Royal Road and polishing them up and putting them out. That it's raising the expectation of the quality of the stories.
And I will not get tired of saying it, but even my great nemesis, Matt Dinneman, he writes every scene 20 times. Every chapter. And he just writes it over and over and then picks the best one. Shirt wrote the first 3 books of He Who Fights with Monsters twice. Right? Like the first 2 books are just like an expansion of like what he thought would be one first book. And like even Zogarth, right? With his words, not mine, like hot dog literature, like fast food literature. He spent, I think it was like 2 years writing this thing before he even like published any of it.
Right.
So I think there's definitely something to be said. If you're looking at all these like really big authors, it's persistence, but also there is a certain attention to quality in it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's my word to the wise, I guess. Okay. That being said, we can, before we should, go into the 4th question. And that's about one book that you love and why is it awesome. But we could also talk about some other stuff because we still have time.
Yeah, up to you. It's your show.
Yes, it's my show. It's my show. No, mine. Except for this one time where someone stole it from me. Actually, it got stolen twice. Once by Andy Parsons, once by Haylock. So I mean, worse people could have stolen it, but don't tell them I said that. It was awesome.
I'm going to tag them, both of them.
Do it. I double dog dare you. Okay. So you just finished the rewrite of Elemental Dungeon
Core Online.
You really? That was I thought you rewrote Elemental Dungeon.
Nope.
You rewrote Dungeon Core Online.
Well, so if we're talking about my previous comment, I rewrote D.E.D before I published D.E.D.
Which one is D.E.D?
Resonance.
Okay, good. Because like, why is it called remastered then?
So it's called remastered because the original version was out on Royal Road, and so that was super rough draft writing. And then everything that was pulled for publishing, I ended up doing like really heavy edits and dev edits and rewriting a lot of scenes, and like parts of the story actually changed. And so the running joke with it was, I'm stupid and I like jokes. I was like, oh, you know, every series out there, everybody just shortens to like the acronyms. So like Dungeon Crawler Carl, DCC, Who Fights with Monsters, HW, blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, oh yeah, well DCO is DCO, but then I was like, and that's what I was calling it, but I was like, oh, but if I add remastered edition to show that it's new and improved and it has been like worked on, then the acronym is D-Core.
Yeah.
So my Dungeon Core acronym is D-Core.
I see what you did there, and I'm going to like self-insert here. I hope you pardon me this, but I was so happy that when I rewrote Torchbearer and came up with a new title, the new title shortened to God Sam, because the main character is called Sam. So yeah, it was Genesis of the Sacred Machine.
Yeah, I did that too with Dicking Around, which is the because then it's DCO-DA. It's Dakota, which was a joke call out to the fact that, you know, Dakota is big for Dungeon Core Online, like Dungeon Core series. So I have D-Core and then I have Dakota. And then obviously you had I have a Royal Road one that I called the Infinite Tower series.
Mhm.
So everybody's joking about how much they love tits.
Yeah. The Infinite Tower. Yeah, that's awesome.
So,
Yeah. Oh well. Okay,
yeah,
but
I just come up with stupid acronyms. That's Elemental
it's good.
Gunslinger is eggs.
Where's the second G?
Oh, it's just EGS, but eggs.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. What's ACE stand for?
Well, so aced actually doesn't have a like it's just aced. Like that was just a tennis term.
Yeah. It's just A.
It doesn't have a series. It's already short. Like it's 4 letters. So you can't really shorten it any. This is
Yeah. No.
I inhaled water.
Pro writing advice: you should drink water and not inhale it.
We said haylock, and I started thinking I was a fish. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Oh wow. Yeah. Yeah. Heretical.
Right.
Yeah. No. Okay. So, but you did go through the entire thing, and you basically did like a very hard editing pass on it.
Yeah, it was a massive edit. A lot of scenes got rewritten. But the other reason is when I started publishing it, I actually had the first 3 books worth of content out on Royal Road.
Mhm.
And so it was like I was still actively writing on Royal Road for DCO, but also publishing the book. And so I was like, I needed to make it different so that people were like aware and not just being like, oh, that's what I read 3 years ago on Royal Road. It's nothing new. So it was trying to like show that it had been improved. And then also another just play on it because it's like, oh, this takes place in a virtual world. And what do video game companies love to do when they release something?
Remaster,
yeah. So it was just remastered.
Nice, yeah. It's fun. But because I like editing, how was that for you? Like the whole rewrite part, like rewriting scenes particularly.
Usually it's actually, I don't mind it. When I say I hate editing, the part of editing that I hate is the like grammatical slog. I am notorious for overusing commas. And so there's a lot of times when it's like the editing process, I'm just sitting there like cussing myself out as I'm deleting commas or like adjusting sentences here and there. When it comes to actually like rewriting scenes, I usually really enjoy that because I'll pull up like the actual scene and have it like in one Word document, and then I'll pull up a blank Word document on the other and like reread the whole thing and then just try to like re-envision it and go. And so that's fun because it's a fun polishing and finalizing stage, but it's still writing, which is what I enjoy. When it's again just the sitting slog and you're like, there's an error, that gets too monotonous for me, and I just hate it. Like, just the worst.
I thought that's what like editors are for. You just send it over to them and it comes back clean.
I wish. Yeah, I that's what I thought too. I was like, oh yeah, this is going off to copy editing. It comes back clean, but then I still have to go through all of their changes. There was a nightmare situation when it came down to Hollowed Bones, because our editor that we did for the first 2 left. And so they grabbed a new editor that we'd never used before, and it was completely terrible because they like were really bad and like trashed this, like completely destroyed the manuscript.
Oh no.
And it took me a month to fix it, and I was so pissed.
How does someone do that as a like line editor?
Well, for one, they were trying to like go by pure English rules and not literary English rules. So they were editing it based off like super strict grammar type rules. But then there were some parts where I don't know what they were doing, because like what they ended up like they were adding in run-on sentences or like splicing things together in like ways that didn't make sense. There were some scenes they were rewriting themselves, and I'm like, no. And so it was a nightmare. Like everybody in my Discord, some of the people on my streams, like they all got earfuls. Like I was furious. This was like the end of 2020. And I was going on rants like all over this because it was such a nightmare. It took a month to fix.
When you stream writing, do you stream like new stuff too, or just like the old stuff?
I used to stream. I don't stream as often anymore, usually because I'm doing a bunch of other random stuff at the same time. But I would do a mixture of both. So I would every Friday night I had my writing stream to where that was books and bourbon. Everybody knew they could show up, request prompts. It was a fun little game. We'd roll a dice to see what prompts got picked. I could usually do like 3 or 4 a night. Because then I'd write the flash fiction and then I'd read it to everybody and we'd all have fun. And then a new prompt would get picked. It was good times. Nice. But then other times, like outside of the books and bourbon stream, when I was just writing, I would just like stream the Word doc and, like maybe like my face there and just write. And I'd be like, this is what I'm working on today. And it would just be new content. Just clickety clacking away. Kind of like what Pirate does.
Yeah. Yeah. But what you don't know about Pirate, I can't talk about it, but Pirate is like really prolific, and they don't stop for anything. Yeah. That's a trick. They're not typing super fast. They're just not stopping. Like I have no idea how they do it. Like but like there's no like big dark secret there either. It's just that the editing process is like very, very involved. So Pirate edits. Very well.
So when I was writing on stream, I'd just be writing new stuff. But the problem was for a while I found I'd get distracted. So then I'd be like writing mid scenes, and then like if people came into chat or like were commenting and stuff, I would get super distracted super easily, and then I wasn't getting anything done.
Have you been to Seth Ring's writing streams?
I have not.
The way he does it is he sets a timer for 30 minutes. He does sprints basically, and then between sprints he like comes and chats to the audience, and it's more like writing together. And he dictates. Okay. So he mutes himself and then he dictates. I don't think it's ever happened to me that he actually forgets to mute. Like he always mutes. But yeah, it's a good time. I really like the crowd. Yeah, good people.
The other not a bad habit per se, because I still get stuff done and I'm still writing. But what I do sometimes is I'll write a chapter and then I'll do like a run of Hades or play a game or two of Magic, and then I'll write another chapter. And then
how can you do that? Because like whenever I start a game, I just don't quit.
It's like rewards. It's like, oh, you did a job. Now you're going to go do a run in Hades. And it's like, okay, you don't get to do your next one until you do another chapter.
That doesn't work for me. Like my dopamine receptors are get so overloaded because I'm so into it. That I'm like, what was I supposed to be doing? Oh, writing. Nah.
I think a part of it is like writing for me has always been just kind of like fun. Like it's always been something I was doing just purely for enjoyment purposes. And so it's not like I don't view it as work unless it's editing, and then fuck that shit. But so when it's like, oh, I just played a round of Hades and now I got to get back to writing. It's like, usually I'm taking that energy of being like invigorated from the game and being like carrying that over to like what I'm going to write.
I think I'm too old because like games don't invigorate me anymore. Like when I'm playing a game, I actively notice at the end how I'm just like tired and exhausted.
Yeah, I think the other thing that helps is like I usually only use like roguelites for it. So it's something that, has a clear start and finish, but it's constrained and short. So like Hades 1, like a run on Hades 1 is like 10 to 15 minutes from start to finish. And so, and then, you finish the run and then you're back at home base and it's a new one to get started. So
how the fridge do you get through the entirety of Hades in 15 minutes?
Because there's just a single run, like just one escape from hell.
Oh, but not on hard difficulty.
I mean, that's usually like a 14 or 15 heat run.
Because like when I saw the speed runs of it, like good speedrunners like finish this game in like 7 minutes. So I was like, okay, I always thought it would take longer than 15 minutes. Maybe it just felt that way. I don't know.
I was gonna say they actually some of the some of the things to increase the difficulty like actually decrease the amount of time you get per floor too.
Yeah, that's true.
So it forces a time limit on you.
Yeah.
And then if you die early, well, it was a shorter run.
Yes. Actually, that makes a lot of sense. Like I've recently started Blast Blue Entropy something. That's fun. But also like a big time drain.
Yeah, I've been playing Dynasty Warriors Origins.
Yeah, that's also a good one. Like it really gives you that OPMC feeling. And I kind of wonder when not as many people have been writing something like that. Right? I think
people got exhausted from like super overpowered MCs for a while.
Ben Carey does them really well.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like it's so hard in our genre because anytime something starts to take off, then you have like a bunch of people trying to write that exact same thing. And so the people that do it really well stand out, but then the readers will start to get kind of like burned out on one thing. If the story of the year is, overpowered MCs by like halfway through the end of the year, everybody's like, okay, I'm done with this.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the story just has to be good. Like, I think I was talking to Ravensegger like before, like I mentioned, and we were talking, hey, like the premise is just a thing that gets people to like start reading a story, and it has to be strong enough for people like to pick it up and actually like go through the first couple of chapters. But the characters are what keep people staying.
Yeah, and that's definitely like so. It's a mixture of getting the premise in a way that gets the people to at least pick it up, but then it all comes down to your skill as a writer.
Yeah, and not overcomplicating things.
Yeah, if you make that first chapter completely impossible to read, or it's just like, here's 50 million stat screens, you're gonna lose a lot of people.
My entire first chapter was one giant stat screen.
If you start with a guy chasing his cat in boxers in the middle of the snow, you might win.
You might win. Yeah, it's and then you write a lot of body horror, and I still think that like DCC doesn't stand for Dungeon Crawler Carl. It stands for Donut's Companion Carl.
Could be.
Like, Donut is obviously the star of the story, and the way better character than Carl.
I'm still waiting for the audiobook next month for number 7.
It's gonna be awesome. I can't wait for all the like 15 different voice actors they're gonna hire for this. Oh wait, no, it's just Jeff Hayes.
Jeff is so crazy talented.
Yeah, if you watch him like recording it, it's also crazy. Like he just like talks through it and like hits whatever, like I think it's like brake pedal or whatever. Like where he like goes through different tracks. It's insanely good.
Yeah, he's done some of the voices for Aced and Flamespitter. He did some voices for the cinematic that they did of Aced.
Cool.
So I've gotten to work with him a few times, and it's really crazy to see him work.
Speaking of good stuff, what's one book that you love and why is it awesome?
I mean, we've mentioned him a couple of times. I'm not going to say Matt because that's super cliched, but Matt is awesome. I always have a good time talking with him at conventions.
Matt Tinneman! My arch nemesis.
I have one claim to fame. Way back in the day when DCO and DCC were both first kind of like starting, he said he liked DCO, so it made me happy.
Nice. That is very cool.
But that was like 2019, so who knows now? But he had read it on Railroad apparently and enjoyed it, so that was cool. But I'd say right now, Heretical Fishing. I'm really having a lot of fun with Haylock's stuff.
Very first episode I ever did was with Haylock.
Yeah, I don't know. It's fun because it's goofy shenanigans, like shenanigans with animal pals, and it's cute, fun. You know, the stakes aren't really high ever, but it's just a fun slice of life with an interesting cast and personalities that you get to see of a guy who just wants to relax and fish.
Yeah, and it's hilariously cozy. Right, like it really like it reads like a good mug of tea. I really like it. Yeah, it's one of my one of my favorite stories. especially in that cozy genre. Like if you want like Western the Western cultivation spin-off on Beware of Chicken, basically, it's a very good choice. Absolutely, 100% would read again. Or as Matt Dinneman once said in a comment, I would let Sergeant Snips circumcise my son.
Yeah, it sounds about. But yeah, so it's just it's fun and it's extremely unique. And just the way he describes things, and then the narrator does a phenomenal job.
Heath.
Yes,
absolutely.
I get so many names stuck in my head. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's Heath, and I'm like, but I'll just say the narrator. Everybody figure that out.
The narrator,
the narrator. Everybody knows who that is.
It's Travis Baldry, right? Because every narrator is Travis Baldry.
No, Travis says Dungeon Core Online.
Awesome. Yeah, I really gotta give that a go. Because when it says Travis Baldry on it, the reading and the quality of the book is going to be nice. Yeah, he doesn't do bad books ever.
I got lucky. I slipped through the cracks.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to talk about it in the bonus material. I'm not going to do it in the main podcast. Anyway, so now it's time for some shout-outs that you can still give.
Shout-outs. I suck at these type of things. Like shout-outs to like people that have like, what type of shout-outs are you looking at?
Well, it's an open question. Mostly it's about shouting out novels that aren't as like smaller authors.
I was like shout-outs as in like people that have supported me or like books. Okay, so like small like books and stuff. Not genre specific. I would say first off would be Shami Stovall's Firth Chronicles.
That's not a smaller book, but yes.
It's super good. And then John's work is really fun. Elf Empire is narrated by the voice actor that does Natsu for the dub of Fairy Tale. So those books have been a lot of fun to listen to. Just as a disclaimer here, both of those are signed with our agency, but still, I really like the books. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I'm very, very happy they're signed with us.
I mean, Mimic and Me, Cassius Lang, was a lot of fun. Had a ton of fun with that. Not smaller, but I loved VGO with James. James is just a great person. James and Jeanette are a lot of fun to talk with and spend time with. I don't want to be cliche and be like, hey, everything by Portal.
Everything by Portal. Yes.
Everything by Portal. Just go. Everything. If it says Portal, pick it up.
Yeah,
everybody loves large chests, but that's not small.
Yeah. It's also like surprisingly weird, right? It's one of those stories where it doesn't have that many followers, but a lot of average reads.
It had a lot of followers. It was massive on Royal Road back in the day. Yeah. And the fact Jeff Hayes narrates it is hilarious.
Yeah.
But it's definitely you want to talk about like body horror and type of stuff like that.
I don't, but yeah, go on.
No, I'm not going into details, but it's a very inappropriate novel. And then there was a lot of aspects that were thrown into it that were very like in the face of people. So like people being like, oh, I want like sexualization and harem and everything. And then the author was essentially like, go screw yourself. I'll give you what you want, but not in the way that you wanted it.
It's like is there like bestiality in the first chapter or something like that? Yeah. So it's 100%. It's a trip.
It is crazy. But the comedy in it and the story are like great. But there are definitely scenes in it that you're like, that is a thing that I just listened to.
Yeah, it's one of the books of all time.
Yeah,
you just have to know what you're getting yourself into. Like if you're into that sort of like comedy, like
I didn't know what I was getting myself into.
Oh my God.
I was just like, Jeff Hayes narrates is cool.
Yeah, which is exactly the same thing that to this day I haven't asked Matt about it yet, but I think he designed this cover himself, the new one with a pineapple on it, and I can swear with this smug grin of his It's kind of like looking at it, nodding and going, yeah, just like that. And put it right next to the Live, Love, Laugh posters and the cozy fantasies.
Yep. No. I mean, I'm pretty sure Matt said that he like purposely does some scenes just to make Jeff have to narrate certain phrases and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, like there's like I mean, they did get Travis Baldry to narrate that crab, I think.
Yeah. So there are definitely some parts in scenes, and like I said, I'm pretty sure Matt's admitted it too, that they do that on purpose just to like mess with each other.
There's one more story I can tell, but I don't know if it's official yet, so I don't know if we can talk about it. That being said, though, do you have any last words for our dear friends on YouTube? Shenanigans. What a wonderful end. Shenanigans are a very appropriate way of ending a podcast.
That's my whole shtick. All my books, it's just shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
Demonic chickens are Dickens. Celestial chickens are chickens, but with a capital C.
Is there like an H in there, or is it just chickens?
No, with this, there's an H in there. It's chickens, but with a capital C.
But wouldn't that make them celestial? That could be fun. Anyway, but no, I really like those. I really like puns. Okay, I said it. There you go.
What?
Thank you everyone for listening and or watching and for enduring our puns. And I hope to see you again next time.
Cheers.
And if you are on Patreon, then the horror goes on.